Anthony.
But I'll still
Hey, what's
pay.
up, guys? How you guys doing?
All right.
Look, they're garbage.
All right,
Can you
Anthony.
hear me all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying the worst thing about Star Wars is not anything in the movie. It's those stupid previews for like Disney, Lilo and Stitch, and that little Bow Wow movie, Be Like Mike. I heard that Matrix 2 was supposed to be the preview, and I got to see this. I'm all excited. And I need to see this garbage for Lilo and Stitch.
I saw that too. The reviews during the Spider-Man movie were just horrendous, except for the Hulk. But you know they're gonna mess that movie up.
I don't know. If they do
everything.
like Spider-Man, you never know.
Later, guys.
All right.
Later, man.
You know, the worst thing about seeing Lilo and Stitch wasn't even seeing Lilo and Stitch. It was those stupid previews I got for, like, Gabby's Dollhouse and, like, the Smurfs. I mean, I thought they were going to have the preview for Zootopia 2, and then I'm just sitting there looking at stupid Gabby's Dollhouse from DreamWorks. I mean, are you serious? Well, anyways, there's really not anything for me to say about Lilo and Stitch, to be honest with you guys, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, here's the thing about this movie. Disney played it safe. They did basically what you're supposed to do, I guess, if you make a Disney live-action remake, and I don't really know what that is. I guess meet expectations, even if they're low or even if they're high. You just sort of meet everybody in the middle. Or at least for me. Because, you know, I kind of went into the movie with mid-expectations. Because I'm going to tell you something. I had some expectations for Lilo and Stitch because the guy who directed it is Dean Fletcher Camp, who did Marshall the Shell with Shoes On. I think they wanted that title to be very hard to pronounce. And that was a cute movie with Jenny Slate as like this talking shell. And it worked, you know? It was one of those things that, like, was an independent film based on a series of short films or a series of, like, web shorts or something like that. But it was very imaginative, and it had some really, like, impressive, like, cinematography and visuals for an independent production. So, you know, like, considering that he directed that film, I was hoping that some of that could have translated to this, and some of it does. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. The worst thing about this movie was the editing. The editing in this movie was horrible. It felt like it was just way too quick cut. There's way too many, like, B-roll shots that they just kind of throw in, like, close-ups that are just very unnecessary. And, you know, like, that kind of editing style worked okay in, like, that Minecraft movie. You know, like, that Minecraft movie was very much, like, the same thing where, you know, it had a lot of that, like, fast-paced, really quick editing. And that was okay in Minecraft because that movie didn't really have a story or anything like that. That was just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you know, like because they wanted to keep a certain pace to it. But this Lilo and Stitch movie just moves so fast. And the reason why I complain about the editing in this film is because in the original Lilo and Stitch, I find very low stimulating. Like, the original Lilo and Stitch is a movie that doesn't really have a lot of story to it, like this one doesn't either. But also, it was very low stimulating in the way of, like, it sort of moves at a very slow pace. If you go back and watch the original Lilo and Stitch, even though it's 85 minutes, it's a very slow-paced film. It takes a while for things to really kind of kick off, or for the things to really be as, you know, action-oriented. So yeah, the editing was really my major complaint with the film. Another complaint I had with the film is that some of the CGI I thought was pretty inconsistent. You know, the CGI on Stitch I thought was pretty good, but then there was other CGI in the film that I thought was kind of wonky and didn't really look all that great. And you know, you could kind of forgive a film like this because it is mostly like a comedy. But also the Minecraft movie is a comedy, and I thought the special effects in that were a lot more like, you know, like goofier, and they worked, like, even when the special effects of that movie were like bad, like the movie has a lot of green screen and noticeable green screen, you know, it still kind of was like effective at what they were trying to do. You know, like they didn't really take that movie seriously at all. And it's weird because I just compare this a lot to that Minecraft movie, but these are like two studio comedies, right? You know, you have like both of these films based on an IP, and they're both like studio films. And, you know, I'm not going to compare the two of them, you know, as far as which one's better or not. I will say this, Lilo and Stitch is probably one of the better Disney remakes I've seen. And I haven't seen a lot of them, but thinking back to, like, the Little Mermaid film that I saw, you know, which I didn't really like all that much. Even though I liked Hailey Bailey's performance in the film, I thought the film was flawed. And I really just despised the Lion King remake from 2019. I really kind of avoided a lot of these Disney remakes. I just think that they're really pointless and they don't add anything new to the source material at all. And they're always just like this blight excuse to get people to watch the older films. And I don't know, I don't really tend to seek them out that much. Lilo and Stitch I did, because Lilo and Stitch did get to my nostalgia. I saw Lilo and Stitch when I was a very little kid. Well, I was 5 years old when it came out to video, because we rented that from the library, that in Ice Age, when I was like 5 years old, and I loved it. Loved watching that film on VHS. And rewatching Lilo and Stitch as an adult, it's so wonderful to really re-experience that film again. So watching this new one, it just like, it, definitely gave me warm memories of watching Lilo and Stitch. And like I said, I won't say it's like Disney's worst. There were a couple of things I liked in the film. I didn't find the film nearly as funny as I hoped it would have been. But again, it plays it really safe. This is like a very safe Disney remake. It's almost like hard to really say that this film is like bad, pointless. Okay, sure. But there's a lot of pointless remakes. There's a lot of pointless sequels. I'll give an example. That Snow Day musical that came out on Paramount Plus like 2 years ago. That's like a great example of something that like never needed to exist. As evident to the fact that Paramount Plus took it off. Can't watch it. So, and that's what's ironic about Lilo and Stitch. It's like, this was originally going to be a Disney Plus remake. Now, I don't know, like, if like the production values of this would have translated to Disney Plus. They probably would have. I'm interested to see how the film performs. I mean, I don't know if this film will make the $1 billion mark, but what's interesting about Lilo and Stitch for me is that Lilo and Stitch, I feel like, unlike a lot of Disney films, really was vindicated primarily through home video. And cable, because I saw this a lot on like Disney Channel and stuff, and definitely that TV show and like, the direct-to-video sequels and stuff, because Stitch is such a lovable character, and very just wonderful, and I relate to Stitch in that way of like, he's just a character who's very much lost amongst this world, and sort of just doesn't understand who he really is, and even like his home planet doesn't really like him. There's so much to love about that character. And it almost makes it hard for me to really dislike this movie because I love Stitch. He's like Toothless the Dragon. I mean, and that's ironic because Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois, who directed the first one, went on to do How to Train Your Dragon. It's kind of crazy, too, because Chris Sanders went on to do, like, The Wild Robot. And, it's wonderful when, like, you could see a version of yourself or an aspect of yourself or a trait of yourself represented in film. And this movie isn't, like, for me it didn't capture that same imagination, but probably because I'm just not a little kid anymore and I've seen the Disney one, the original animated film. So, like, of course it isn't going to encapsulate me the same way as it will a lot of other people out there. I'm interested to hear what younger people and people, maybe a lot more kinder than me will say about Lilo and Stitch, the remake. As it stands, it's just like a perfectly serviceable, okay Disney film. It didn't make me mad. I didn't find it offensive or really like awful. It felt like it was competent, at least in its, filmmaking. And I mean, in spite of the editing was just the only thing I really just disliked. It was just so like unnecessary to edit like that crazily. And I understand like they really want to showcase the chaos and destruction, but I also thought that stuff after a while became really boring. Like we understand that Stitch is a very destructive character, but there also just isn't like that. Like unlike the first one, there really just isn't that sense of like, I don't know, like the sense of like Stitch really understanding his moral, or even like Lilo for that matter. So to me, I feel like a lot of the heart kind of missed out on this one, at least for me. Maybe for a lot of people out there it probably worked, but I feel like a lot of that was missing too. So it's a flawed movie, but it's also in the shadow of a really wonderful traditional animated film that is Lilo and Stitch. Like I said, I have attachment to Lilo and Stitch because I saw it when I was very little. One of the first Disney movies I think I watched as a kid. And, watching this remake, like I said, it's perfectly serviceable. I'm not going to get mad. I will say that, like, I liked all the actors in it. I like that they incorporated some of the old cast members from the original animated film to the live action one. I really liked Amy Hill in the film. That was a really nice surprise to see her in something like this again, like a big budget like film, because she's done a lot of TV and mostly stays on the small screen. But she has a very wonderful career. So I always like seeing her. And, overall, I saw the movie, and I'm probably not going to seek it out again. I may or may not seek it out when it comes out to Disney Plus. I don't know. Sometimes I have a tendency to do that. And, as it stands, it's like I said, it's just serviceable and fine. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's just really what it is. But this movie, ladies and gentlemen, did something to me that I really wasn't expecting. It made me want to seek out the Disney Snow White remake that came out earlier this year, because I skipped it intentionally. I'm going to talk about it because I'm interested to actually sit down and watch it to see if it's really just as bad as people are saying it is. Because people, like, this movie has like a 1.7 on IMDb, and it's gotten some of the most, like, horrid reviews from people. And it makes me wonder just how bad this movie is.
Well, I think the little ones will be scared by this nasty little Stitch creature, and I think adults, at least this adult, was bored by it.
Oh, come on.
I like the relationship between the older sister and the little girl, and I like the Godzilla scene that we showed there, but that's about all I liked about this movie. The Elvis Presley songs, so what? They got Elvis Presley songs. They don't advance the story. They stop the story. And I don't think the animation is very good in this. It's very simple and basic stuff.
Oh, no, the animation...
And the story itself is just a rip-off of E.T. A little nasty creature with those teeth that's biting into people and those legs that pop out of its torso from time to time.
And means well. Stitch is like all monsters. Kids immediately identify with monsters because kids feel like monsters. They don't fit in. Everybody blames them for things they didn't do. Kids and monsters have a lot in common.
And you know what? The other alien creatures are kind of ugly and repulsive.
No, they're not ugly and repulsive.
And the story itself, it just manipulates you with the family stuff as well. So I found it to be a crushing disappointment. I give thumbs down to Lilo and Stitch.
Brilliant.
All right, so this is the part, ladies and gentlemen, where I'm supposed to talk about Disney's Snow White from 2025. And it's been about like 27 hours since I watched it, and guess what? I don't remember anything about it. Nothing about this movie. And that's not to say that this is like one of the worst movies ever made or anything like that. No, ladies and gentlemen. No, it's not to say that this is a movie that I even hated. It's to tell you guys that this movie can be summed up in one adjective only. Or noun, or whatever they're like. Or word. How about that? Just one word that I can sum up Snow White from 2025. And that is empty. Okay? As I was sitting here watching this movie, I felt nothing from this film at all. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to knock on Rachel Zegler because I actually thought Rachel Zegler was fine in the role. I'm not going to get into any of the stupid controversy and any of that shit. Basically, if you saw Don't Worry Darling from 3 years ago, it's basically just the same crap. A bunch of like celebrity drama that I have no interest in at all because it's just all this boring, nonsensical rat race of nothing. Very disappointed to find out that Mark Webb of stuff like 500 Days of Summer and Gifted directed this because he is actually pretty talented in my opinion. He worked on that show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which I liked. And he also did those Amazing Spider-Man movies, which I'm not the hugest fan of, but they have moments in them. And I don't feel like he's the fault of why those films didn't work for me. There are some other factors. But overall, the Snow White movie was just very empty. It wasn't like a terrible film. I did like the music score in the film to a certain extent. Not like in that way of like it's something I'm going to remember, but in that way of like I thought it complemented the film very nicely. And some of the visuals weren't that bad. Until you got onto the Seven Dwarfs and it just turns into Mars Needs Moms, which kind of just basically sums up how I feel about those characters in terms of what they did in the film. I mean, the movie's just empty. I mean, it's just as empty as the milk carton in Friday. It's just like one of those things where like I'm just sitting there watching this being like there's just nothing I'm getting for watching this film. I sat through the whole thing. I even sat through the credits. And like I said, there's just not much I can say about it. I mean, like, I'm not even going to say, like, this is even one of the worst films because it's a remake of a film that I'm not even that crazy about. It's been years since I've seen the original Snow White. If I've actually seen it all the way through, I'm not even sure. I'm pretty sure I saw it, like, on ABC when I was very little because I remember watching it on TV. But other than that, I don't know if I saw the whole thing or not, If I did, then it probably didn't make that much of an impression on me as a kid either. So watching this movie was just kind of pointless, and I just don't understand why Disney even made the effort to spend like this much money on a film like this. I mean, does anybody, my age or even older than me really want to see a remake of Snow White? And the thing is, everybody's like, oh, it's all Rachel Zegler's fault. I'm like, no, this movie could have had a different Rachel and I still wouldn't have seen it. This movie could have had Rachel Bloom and I still wouldn't have seen it, or Rachel Sennett and I still wouldn't have seen it. All right? Now, if it had Rachel McAdams, maybe, because I'm a Rachel McAdams simp, but that's a different story. There's actually a lot to that. Yeah, whatever. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Let's just move on to something else. Last but not least, I saw Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. And I'm going to be honest, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was flawed. And the flaws, the more you think about them, kind of severe a lot of what I enjoyed about the film. At its core, and basically to sum it up, I thought the film was very entertaining. It was well made. It had good action. I mean, that's basically the strong suit of all these movies, is that they all have really good action. My biggest problem with this movie is I just really didn't like how the other characters are utilized. Like Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg, Pom Klementieff. I just felt like they didn't get a lot to do in this movie. And I really didn't like what they did to Ving Rhames' character at all in this movie. I thought it was very, it just really underestimated the whole film for me and the whole franchise. I just really didn't care for that. The story in this one is actually really silly. It reminded me a lot of that Fast and the Furious movie, where it's just like, it honestly, or not Fast and the Furious, but like Fast and Furious 10, where it just felt like this one was just really like, super silly in terms of the story. I mean, basically, like the villain of the movie basically is an AI. That's it. And it also felt like this franchise is kind of just at that point where they're kind of running out of, like, I don't know, like fresh, like it really just doesn't feel fresh anymore. By the time you get to like the last action set piece, it's still really entertaining, but it feels like you just kind of have been there, done that, And the reason why I complain a lot about the, characters not getting much to do is, like, you saw like Dead Reckoning, the last one, and I feel like they did a lot more in that. And I was really kind of just disappointed that they had, like, the cast come back, but like I said, they didn't really do much. I mean, Haley Atwell's character is the only one that does really a lot more in this film, and I liked her stuff. She was good in the last movie. So seeing this was just kind of like, okay, well, they gave her more to do, but why didn't they do a lot more with Pom Klementieff? I just don't know. And I know that's like kind of annoying to complain about that, but like Pom Klementieff in the last one did a lot more stuff. Like, she did some action. I wanted to see more of that, and you only see a little bit of that, Also, Katie O'Brien's in the movie, who you probably remember from Love Lies Bleeding. She doesn't get much to do in this film either. I'm also just really sick of seeing her in stuff where she doesn't get much to do, aka Twisters. I feel like this one just felt like it was missing a certain element. And there was something very, I don't know what it was, but this movie tonally just felt kind of cynical to me. Like, it felt like it just didn't really have, like, a lot of heart to it. It felt like a lot of this movie was just Tom Cruise really wanting to do more cool stuff. And basically at the end of the day. And I just felt like this one is a two-parter, which initially was, before they changed the title. I didn't really care much for the first hour, where they spent a lot of time having like just this massive exposition. This movie cost $400 million, and I kind of failed to see how this movie cost that much, unless if they ended up shooting a location for a lot of this film, which I'm pretty sure is the case for a lot of it, because they don't use like a lot of like CGI special effects, or if they do, then at least they blend in very well. So at least you do see some of the money on screen, but I'm like, $400 million, that's like an outrageous lot for a movie like this. Whether or not it's going to make it back, who knows? Yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed the film, but it wasn't my favorite of the Mission Impossible films. I can't help but say that I was a little let down by this one, especially because I did like Dead Reckoning. And I just also didn't like the villain in this one that much either. I didn't think the villain was all that engaging. I mean, like, I've liked some of the previous villains, Henry Cavill in Fallout, Douglas Scott in the second one, Philip Seymour Hoffman in the third one. I like those villains a lot more. Like, the villain I didn't think was all that engaging in this one. I thought the villain was kind of like forgettable. I don't know. I felt like this one just lacked, like I said, it just lacked a certain freshness. It just feels like this franchise is just kind of repeating itself to ad nauseum. I kind of hate using that term because I overuse that term a lot. But see, that's the thing. I mean, it just feels like we're just here again doing this again. You know, it's not really, like I said, the franchise isn't evolving. You know, I mean, like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's not terrible. It's not unwatchable. It is entertaining. But I just feel like it should have been a lot stronger, especially because, like I said, if it's saying, if they're marketing this as the last Mission Impossible, then it really needs to pack a bigger punch for it to be the last Mission Impossible, because I just feel like even at the end of the day there's still a lot to be desired for it, and it feels like they honestly wanted to, you know, tie it that way. Because let's see if this movie makes like a lot of money, and if it does, then maybe they'll do another one. Who knows? You know, if they do another one, I hope they, you know, do something really fresh. This is the 4th one in the series, directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Maybe they can hire, like, I don't want to say hire like a new director, but like just add something a little bit more, I don't know, just keep it fresh. It just feels like they're just, the franchise is, like I said, formulaic at this point. And I know that sounds kind of stupid to say that about this, but I don't know. Look at it this way. John Wick Chapter 4, that came out 2 years ago, is a movie I've only seen once in the theater, but it left a big impression on me. I really liked what they did with John Wick as far as like the action set pieces. That had like that great action set piece with its overhead. Like, I really like that scene with the stairs. But with John Wick 4, they did a lot of like really inventive stuff and a lot of things I really liked. And you don't get a lot of that with this Mission Impossible film. It's just a lot of, like I said, just the same formulaic stuff that they've done before. I'm gonna just talk about some stuff that, you know, really caught my eye. Like Bring Her Back, which is done by the same people that gave us Talk to Me. Judging from early reviews, this is also another winner, so I can't wait to look forward to this one. Ballerina, which is the John Wick spinoff with Ana de Armas, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really looking forward to. I just don't see the need of them really needing to do a John Wick spinoff. I feel like Lionsgate is just desperate to really try anything, and honestly, it's not really working out for Lionsgate at all. That Wes Anderson one also comes out, I think, next week. I'm looking forward to that one slightly. I know I kind of talked a lot of shit about Asteroid City. I feel like I've kind of calmed down on that movie quite a bit since I last talked about it. You know, I'm starting to kind of like, I feel like I have a little bit more appreciation, or I would have appreciation for it if I saw it again, maybe. Because I'll be honest, when I saw it in the theater, I kind of just felt like it was, what do you call it? Like, just really like, kind of just up its own, if you could say, if I were to use a term. And then like you have like Materialist, which is the Celine Song film coming out. I don't know if I'm looking forward to that one exactly. It, you know, the marketing of that one seems like it's because it's A24, I can't tell if the marketing is like lying or deceiving us from believing that this film is a lot more better than it is, or if this is just one of those things that's just like not really that great. The reason why I bring up Celine Song is because she did Past Lives, which is a movie I really, really liked. So I really hope that this at least, that Celine Song's contributions, or that Celine Song can contribute that same effort that she did in the film Past Lives into this film. So we'll see how that turns out. Speaking of seeing how it turns out, the How to Train Your Dragon remake, which I keep having anxiety about, I'm like, I feel like in some reality, this movie could be good, and I'm being told from at least early reviews that it's supposed to be pretty good, but I'm not buying that early review shit for 2 seconds, because a lot of times when people are like, oh, it's early reviews and stuff, like they're always making a big deal about it, and really in hindsight, it isn't really that big of a deal. I just really don't want this to go down the route of just like another studio remake that's forgotten about, but who knows? I mean, DreamWorks is another studio that's kind of desperate, you know, but I know like a lot of their stuff hasn't done very well recently. Let's see what else comes out. Then we got the F1 movie that comes out. I think that's directed by the guy who did Top Gun Maverick, so, you know, and I saw the trailer for that, and that looks pretty entertaining. Nothing like crazy. Then we have Megan the sequel, which basically tonally is just a lot more different than the first one in terms of, this one just doesn't look like a horror movie. This one just looks like a straight up horror comedy or send up. So we'll see how that one turns out as well. Speaking of seeing how it turns out as well, the new Pixar film, which I still don't know how to pronounce the title, which is not a good sign. I kind of hate how Disney has just completely underestimated Pixar. Like, I feel like they should owe Pixar a lot of credit. If you consider the fact that Inside Out 2 made $1 billion and Elemental actually did pretty well, which they threw under the bus, and it still pisses me off that they threw that movie under the bus, but it pisses me off that they just threw Pixar under the bus. And I almost want to do a video on it, because I feel like the precipitation of Pixar has been ruined because of the precipitation of what Disney has done to it. Because I still think Pixar makes great films, but a lot of people don't. I don't know. I that's just something that really annoys me, but it's a lot that goes into it. Yeah, so we'll see how that film turns out. I hope it's good, but you never know with this stuff. I mean, trailers, ladies and gentlemen, just really don't sell the films that well anymore like they used to. Really just in general marketing. They hide a lot of stuff in marketing and misinterpret a lot. Or a lot of stuff gets misinterpreted in marketing. That new Jurassic World movie, I'm not going to lie, does look pretty good. I think I like the idea of them going back to the island as opposed to it being in a park. Hopefully this Jurassic World definitely recaptures a lot of the stuff that's been lacking in the Jurassic Park franchise. I feel like the Jurassic Park franchise has just become sort of what do you call it? Just sort of like a parody of itself, if you think about it. I'm not going to get into it too much. Then we got that Superman movie coming out from James Gunn that it seems like a lot of people aren't looking forward to. I actually think that looks really cool. I feel like a lot of people are just still stuck up about the whole Snyderverse thing, and I just wish people would get over it. It's like, dude, it's over. Like, I'm glad the Snyderverse is over. I'm just glad we're not doing the DCU crap anymore. Like, that shit was just way too convoluted. And there were just so many empty promises from Warner Brothers. Like, oh my God, we're going to do a Teen Titans movie. And we're going to do all this stuff. And we never got it. Like, they were like the deadbeat dad of, like, superhero films. And it just made me mad. I was just getting tired of, like, the amount of expectations that Warner Brothers, and promises that Warner Brothers were giving us, and they never fulfilled any of them. So I'm so happy that, we're finally just moved away from that stupid DCU crap, and we're just moving on to something new. A lot of people don't have faith in the Superman movie, but I do, because I want it to be good. I feel like everybody deserves a watchable Superman film. I know, people are upset about the whole DCU thing, but it's like, it's over. And really, in hindsight, Warner Brothers is the fault of that. They fucking, they fucking just were like, hey, let's go ahead and just, try to do Batman versus Superman and rush that out, and then let's rush out the Justice League movie, because we need to make that $1 billion mark, because we didn't do that with a lot of our other films or whatever. I'm just glad that shit's over. Out with the old, in with the new, they say. That Smurfs movie's coming out. The new Smurfs movie, which looks really weird, and I forget which country it is, but there's a country out there that's really big on the Smurfs, or at least in its home country or native country or whatever, because the Smurfs is really huge over there. I need to look into it, but other than that, I don't really care about the Smurfs movie. I mean, that's one of those things I'll probably watch when it's on Paramount Plus or something. I Know What You Did Last Summer, the remake, which I also don't really care about either. That's a franchise that I never really cared much for anyways. So that means I'll probably end up watching this one when it comes out. Fantastic Four, First Steps, which that one looks pretty promising as well, but we'll see what happens when that one comes out. I feel like it'll be a perfectly serviceable Fantastic Four movie, It has to be better at least than the last one we had. Then we have The Bad Guys 2, which I will say that trailer made me laugh. The Naked Gun parody that's coming out, or the remake that's coming out. I don't really have that much desires for that one. I think Seth MacFarlane is either writing it or producing it. Or no, he's only producing it, so he's not working on it. The one guy that's directing it is the guy that's from the Lonely Island thing, and I think he did that Chip and Dale film. Then we had Weapons, which is the Zach Kreger film coming out, which means I still have to watch Compassion. Freakier Friday, which I hate to say I'm actually interested in, because I actually have nostalgia for the first Freaky Friday, because I saw it in the theaters, and that's a movie I grew up with. So I'm actually low-key kind of looking forward to Freakier Friday. See, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that the film industry doesn't understand is that body swap comedies seem to be a very big genre for basically anyone out there, because I feel like those movies tend to do pretty well. Nobody 2, which is the sequel to the first Nobody, which I really liked. That one I'm low-key kind of interested in. And let's see, if there's just one more movie I could sit here and talk about to you guys. Spinal Tap 2. Interesting about Spinal Tap 2. I don't even know why they would make a sequel to Spinal Tap. I mean, like, Spinal Tap is one of the most beloved films out there. And the funny thing about Spinal Tap is, like, when I watched the movie, I remember the first time I watched the movie, I didn't know exactly that it was a parody of, but I still thought that movie was super, super funny. Just because the, like, you know, band was just so, like, strange and what have you. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to end this recording of the Trayvon Reed Files. I thank you all for listening to this. I don't know if I'll do another one soon or not. I might be a long time before I do another one of these. But I just wanted to talk about some stuff that I watched recently or some stuff that I saw recently. Just kind of ramble about it. Thank you all for listening to this, and I'll see you guys somewhere in the near future.